Good to see you. Good to meet you.
Yeah,
Nice to
Hey,
see you, Sean. You're
no
looking great
intro
this
today,
evening.
guys. Sorry, we had to go live because we weren't paying attention. Oh well, no
What happened to the
sorry.
intro?
Well, we could do it now just for shits and giggles. So why don't we?
Operators are standing by.
Welcome to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss the unidentified, the unexplainable, paranormal, conspiracies, and much more. Starring your host and co-hosts, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, Trish Lowe, and Jason Sledgehammer Ryan Petro. Brought to you by UPRN Network. Now for your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Good evening and welcome to Chasing
back.
Prophecy on the UPRN FM 105.3 in New Orleans, where we discuss everything and beyond the scope of normal. I'm Jenny Nicasio, along with my co-host Sean Kelly, Jason Ryan Petro, and the fabulous Trish Mose. And well, I forgot to say the Vampire Slayer Kelly. Okay. Remember to
Sean,
like
did
us
you fix your
on
camera?
YouTube.
You know
Follow
what?
us. They don't listen to what I'm talking, guys.
I'm the
Oh my
vampire
God,
hunter.
Torture Tuesday, here we come. Oh my
Yep.
God,
Torture
just
Tuesday,
shoot me down,
welcome.
get it over with. Well, we have an interesting evening for you tonight, but before we get started, this episode is sponsored by Seriously, What the Frick? A true crime podcast where a mix of true crime and comedy comes to light. Every Friday, Daphne, one of the most unserious people on the planet, will take you on a serious case of conspiracies will make you say, seriously, what the frick? Daphne has a talent of making even her darkest stories lighthearted, but without being disrespectful. Best part is 20% of her monthly proceeds from her Patreon and her merchandise store. This is great, which her merchandise is to die for, let me tell you, goes towards the foundations like DNA Doe Network and the Cold Case Foundation to help give the people that she talks about the justice that they deserve. That's fantastic. You can find I keep calling her Stephanie. Daphne's podcast, Seriously, What the Frick? Anywhere you listen to podcasts, and check it out. And thanks again to Seriously, What the Frick, for sponsoring this episode. And you can find her link on our website and on our Facebook page, and it'll be on our bio too at the end of the show. Okay. Let me tell you.
Before we have to make sure we're on our stations because we've been having problems with people finding us.
Okay, so I think we have 7 comments so far, but those
we're
are
on
us.
Facebook. And
we're on Facebook
It's
and YouTube.
YouTube and
Yep.
Facebook.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's good. Last week we weren't on anything, so because we're having one of those rememberable shows that kind of gets messed up, and we had a lot of complaints about it, guys. So I want to tell you that. So we got to get on the ball. We might have to designate people, like Trish does one thing, Jason does another thing, Sean does another thing. But before we want to delve into our guest tonight, Brad Kelly is our guest, and he's in.
Brad.
I do believe
Hey, how
he's
you
there. He's a sci-fi writer behind the novel of House of Sleep, co-host of the podcast Art of Darkness, which I checked out, featuring biological profiles of artists with a focus on the dark side of creativity, which I find fascinating. So if you ever watch movies or novels and like what goes into these guys' mind, so we're going to find out, because I know myself, I'm a writer like Brad. I'm switching over to a more scarier genre. I think I'm going to go into the horror aspects of it because there's a dark side to all of us, especially us creative people. So, and we'll make you think about when you read a book or watch a movie, it'll make you think a little bit what went into that. So anyways, we're also going to talk about the tarot with Brad, and we're going to talk, like I said, the dark side of creativity. And the author, he's doing an ongoing series of what did you say that was, Brad? I was a little
explications and interpretations of the tarot. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So Brad, welcome to Chasing Prophecy.
Thank you for having me, guys. This is awesome. I'm having fun already, and I haven't even.
Yeah,
So firstly, I have a question right off the bat.
Yeah.
Is there any relation between Brad Kelly and Sean Kelly? Because they both have the same haircuts, they have the same last name.
Yeah, he looks like he could be my uncle or something, right?
Ah,
Yeah, I don't know. Not that there's a lot of Kellys
You can't
around.
even see him right
so.
now. But
We can't see him right now. He's hiding. He does that all the
I got a
time. He
glimpse.
hides. But your picture doesn't do you justice, Brad.
Oh, well,
You're gonna have
thank you.
to updo it because it didn't. You look in there. You look a lot older in that picture.
Oh, do I? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jeez,
you're
Jenny.
young, so
Take
you
it
need to update that.
Damn,
I'm
Tim.
aging in reverse.
No, you're taking it the
I
wrong
appreciate
way.
that. That's very nice.
Your picture
No,
looks a little bit stern, a little bit older, and
Yeah, I
you're
gotta
much
get
younger,
people- I
much
gotta get
more
people to-
handsome than the picture. Okay.
Well, thank you. I got to get people to take me seriously, though.
Well, yeah, you looks very, very,
Life's
very,
too short for that.
very
Yeah.
eccentric writer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into. Okay, so you write. Tell us a little bit what you write and why did you get into this genre? And do you have that darkness behind your writing too?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, right? Yeah. So I started out writing like very, I would say, realistic kind of gritty stuff, and have just moved into stranger and darker territory. House of Sleep is, it's a novel about a cult up on a plateau in which people are sort of remembering their dreams as though they happened yesterday. It's got a charismatic guru cult leader who's drawing these people to the House of Sleep for nefarious purposes. And so there's a bit of a psychological thriller. There's a little bit of reality kind of falling apart, that sort of thing. So it gets dark, and I think it ends on I wouldn't say it ends on a dark note, but you got to go through some darkness to get there. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you, like, when you write, do you to write more dark, we're going into the dark, like even dark comedies, how do you get there? I mean, do you have a dark side that you manifest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yes and no, right? So I would say yes, I do. I live in Detroit, the Detroit area, and though you don't have to go too far to see sort of the rough edge of life, though I'm not saying I necessarily occupy that. I've been fortunate, but I would say that I've got a little bit of a dark side. I think a lot of people who are driven to spend a lot of time in a room by themselves creating something, you gotta have a little bit of discomfort almost fitting into the world. I would say a little bit of sensitivity, a little bit of anxiety, maybe those sorts of things. So yeah, I would say that I do, and I've always been drawn to sort of the horror genre a little bit. House of Sleep I wouldn't call horror, though there maybe is a moment in there or two that kind of qualify. But yeah, I think most people, I don't want to speak for everybody, but all of the artists that I know, even the friendliest, happiest, bubbliest of us, often have something, some story from their past, some relationship with a parent, some terrible thing that happened. So I've got that, I suppose, as much as the next person, for sure.
Yeah, that transfers over to music as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a musician, and being in and out of bands and dealing with songwriters, and I'm more of the musical side of it. I'm not so much a songwriter lyrically, but I've started dabbling into it. But from dealing with everybody, when you dabble into that dark side is where some of the best just stuff comes from, the best material you could create. And it's crazy to think about that.
Yeah,
well, there has to be a balance. Yeah, it's hard to find a balance, because when you get into that, I mean, seriously, Jason, you even know when you write music, and Brad, when you get into this mode, you focus, and it's hard to get out of it, and you you want a balance, and it's hard to do sometimes, because once you start writing or thinking about stuff, it's hard to get out of that, and it can carry on into your business, and it's hard to separate.
Yeah, and for writing, sometimes you've got to just get into a headspace for the purposes of a plot, right? It's like, okay, this terrible thing is about to happen in this book, so I'm going to spend a couple of hours thinking in detail about, you know, the worst thing that ever happened to somebody, right? Because it's the scene in this book. And then you're done for the day and you close the laptop and it's like, oh, I'm just going to go, you know, I'm supposed to go have a normal relationship or a normal conversation with somebody. There can be a sort of a jarring thing there for sure.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But Trish, why don't you give your insight into this, because you're a psychic intuitive, but you're also an artist. When you do your pictures, when you take pictures and photos, and when you create art, do you find yourself going off into a different?
I mean, all the time. I talk to dead people, so there's a lot. My inspiration comes from all over the place, depending on quite literally whether it's my own imagination or something I'm channeling. So
no, there's a novel there. So Brad, so tell us about so you also do the podcast.
Yeah. So part the podcast is called Art of Darkness, artofdarkpod.com, Art of Dark Pod on Twitter. It's a show I do with my friend, the great playwright Kevin Kautzman. We work on it together. And every episode we do a lot of research. So we'll spend a month, one of us will spend a month digging into the life and work of an artist and then kind of present it to the other person. And then we sort of take turns doing that. And so, you know, we've done a fairly wide range of people at this point. We did an episode on Johnny Cash. We did an episode on Marlon Brando. We're both writers, so we lean a little bit more towards writers, but we try not to stay there. We've done William Faulkner and H.P. Lovecraft and Franz Kafka and a range of other people. We're doing a poet coming up soon who I knew nothing about, who is the darkest one of everybody we've covered so far, to be honest. John Berryman.
I think there have to be dark. Some of them, I mean, going back to Edgar Allan Poe, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You go into
absolutely. Yeah,
do you find that drugs has a lot to do with the reason why they're dark? I mean, Johnny Cash was an alcoholic. I don't know if I watched the movie and I did a lot of research on him, but I don't know if he delved into the drugs.
Yeah, he was a big, Johnny Cash was a big speed guy. So started out, it was like medical. It was prescribed to him because that was common, you know, when he was younger in his 20s and early 30s. So it's kind of, for him, the speed started as just like, he was just trying to get from town to town on tour. And then the shows were going so well. And then, you know, you take a little bit just to function. And then next thing you know, you need them to do anything at all. And that's kind of what ended up happening to Johnny Cash there. So I would say most of the people we've covered, and it ends up being drugs or alcohol. And it's chicken and egg scenario, right? It's which came first. Did they find the drugs because they needed that to fill a void, or did the drugs create the void to begin with? You know, it's a little difficult to say in some cases.
Well, do you think, you know, because I know a lot of rock stars and stuff, obviously they delve into that stuff, and do you think that they turn to it because it helps them get to a place where they have trouble getting to, and it just lets it freely fly out, you know? But then sometimes they get overboard with it, you know, and you know, unfortunately some perish and stuff. But
yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, I think it's a combination of things. Like I think it's that. I think there's the idea that it actually helps with creativity, and you know, to be honest, it does sometimes. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, especially if you've got a deadline, you know, not to recommend it, but taking speed might help. Right? Like, right. And not to say you should do it, but like, if you're in this sort of high stakes world and okay, I'm going to go perform in front of 10,000 people, I need this to go well. Right. You're going to do what it takes. And then that can turn itself into a habit. And the actual creative part itself, the coming up with the stuff to begin with. Sure. I mean, you know, that's pretty, you know, it's pretty commonly held belief that, you know, drugs of all sorts can be helpful for that. You know, turning it in, that's where the tricky balance is, right? It's like, having a drink that maybe helps you kind of relax from the day, and then that helps you get into your work. I don't see how that's wrong necessarily. But when eventually over time that becomes you needed to get out of bed, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. But then I think there's also this trick too, where a lot of these artists, especially as they become creative or more successful, they don't have anything structuring their time. They don't have anybody telling them no. They don't have anybody telling them, you can't do this. You have to be here. Right. And for some people, that is the ideal lifestyle. And maybe for all of us it is, but for some people can't handle that. There's no, why can't I get drunk?
You still have to have structure. Right. Otherwise,
exactly.
You start like 50 projects and
that's my problem.
Because I have ADHD too. And I know, tons of artists, obviously, and we have all these things going on. So you do still have to have I was going to ask you if you are familiar with, it's been around for maybe 15, 20 years. There's a lot of organizations. I personally work with a few and am getting more into it on prison art as therapy and prison artists. And I was wondering if you've ever interviewed anyone like that or kind of gotten into, because it's interesting. They have so many different styles, and some of them donate, some of them make money off of it that goes towards restitution and stuff like that. Right. But nobody's really gotten into kind of the stories behind them and how they got to that.
Yeah. We haven't delved into anybody on the show, but I really do want to cover some people who've spent, like artists that are reasonably well known who've spent some significant time in prison. I did teach creative writing in the penal institution in Texas for about a year. Yeah. It's fascinating. A very wide range of talent for sure. Some people who were very impressive and everybody was trying their best, but some people, they never even sat down to write a sentence, to be honest, so it was very much a learning curve for them. But you can certainly see the therapeutic, these guys, some of these guys were just writing stuff. They were writing a story, but it was clearly them figuring out how they got to where they were, and I felt like nobody really ever asked them that, I don't think, like on a person-to-person basis. And you could definitely see that coming through their work. And, all of those guys, there was, if you go into a jail or a prison, the people are there for all different reasons. There's people who are a little touched by evil, to be honest. Then there are people who are just screw ups, and not even casting aspersions on them. They just can't get it together, right? Can't resist temptation, made bad decisions, just had poor luck, did the same thing as 1,000 other people, and they were the ones that got caught. But yeah, that's a fascinating aspect of it. The guy we're covering soon, this poet John Berryman, American poet, he got locked up a couple of times for short-term things, but he was like teaching at Harvard at the same time, and he got drunk and disorderly charges for crapping on his landlord's front porch. Like he just, on the one hand he was, he was a Shakespeare scholar and a Pulitzer-winning poet, and on the other hand, he'd get a couple too many whiskeys in him, and you had no idea what he was going to do. So it takes all kinds, I guess.
So tell us about your the other work you're doing with the tarot, because this is a paranormal radio show and we talk about the tarot all the time.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so I've been reading and studying tarot for it's been quite a while now, 7 or 8 years, I suppose. And I don't do readings in any, I do readings for a lot of friends. I haven't tried to turn that into any kind of event thing. It's sort of an intimate, a friend that wants to talk about something, or a friend of a friend, that sort of thing. But I've been reading about it and really thinking about the tarot for a long time. And as a writer, I'm very interested in metaphor. Excuse me. And so it made sense to me at some point, I'm really trying to figure out these cards. Mm-hmm. What's the best thing for me? Well, I think by writing. So it was I'm going to take each card and I'm going to write 2 or 3 pages. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to bring a little personal anecdote into it. I'm going to, maybe research something that doesn't have anything to do with the tarot, but seems like it fits into this interpretation of this card, and just try to show a slightly different take on it. Not contradicting. Every card has as many interpretations as there are tarot readers, it feels like. So not to contradict anything or say this is what the card means, but maybe just a slightly different angle on any individual card. So that's been really cool, and a lot of people really seem to like it. I get a lot of feedback on that, like, oh, that really resonated with me. And my favorite is when it's somebody who doesn't know anything about the tarot, never even considered thinking about it, and reads one of those and like, that was pretty meaningful. Thank you. so
That's a
so
really
that's pretty cool.
interesting way that you're doing that, writing down each. Yeah, I think that things like that would actually help you learn how to use the tarot, because I know it takes time.
Well, I think people get stuck on what the literal, like the original Rider-Waite tarot. People get so fixated, especially when they're learning, or even if they want to go to a reader, I think they assume that they have to know what all of these mean, and all of these things, and the literal definition of each card, historically, and that's not.
I totally agree.
It took myself a while to figure that out as well. I think everybody,
I totally agree with that. People want it to be like, they want like a 3 words for each card, like that's what that card means, and it's not particularly useful, I don't think. That way. It's kind of constricted, and the cards talk to each other too, so if you're not flexible about them, they're not gonna be in dialogue with each other. Absolutely. Either. So and there's been so many people have written so much very brilliant stuff about the tarot. You could spend the rest of your life just reading books on the tarot. So that's pretty cool. You can check that. That's on my website. I'm supposed to promote myself. Brad Kelly-esque. That's Brad KELLYESQUE.com. So
you don't do any reading like readings and
no, just
what she's saying is she wants a tarot reading.
No,
thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay.
I would totally do one. That's cool. Yeah, I give readings to people. I just don't turn it into.
Here we go. Jenny definitely wants a reading. Trust me.
Definitely can read our mind waves.
Does Jenny want a reading?
Yes.
Oh, put the. That's a flea market 8-ball.
Cool.
Just, I'm trying to find. Can you? So Brad Kelly. What was the rest of that? I'm sorry.
ESQ.
Okay.
UE.
I want to come in there and
there's a tarot tab on there. I think I've done like 13 cards at this point.
What's your favorite spread?
I sort of do like a modified Celtic cross without the traditional Celtic cross has the big bar of them on the right. I've realized when I was giving people readings, they start getting like people don't have that kind of attention span anymore. Yeah. So I had to like trim it down and get rid of that.
All like goldfish.
Yeah, exactly.
More than like 3 cards, and you're
3 cards
are the best.
Yeah, people start checking their text messages by the time you get there, so you got to like kind of cut it short. So I just do the sort of the middle of the Celtic cross. So what is that? 6 cards, I guess. 6. Yeah. I'll do a 3 card for some people sometimes too. Yeah.
Have you ever, when you've done a reading for somebody, by not knowing what the definition of a card is, but what you actually felt when you pulled the card off the deck, have you ever done something like that?
Yeah, certainly. Especially like early on, I would. So early on when I was studying tarot, I was a single dude, and I learned that it was a really good way to talk to girls at the bar.
I've never thought about that.
It's true, Trish.
It wasn't the bald head.
No, that doesn't help at all.
I think so.
But so like, I never tried to read cards for anybody until I felt sort of reasonably confident that I could do it. But yeah, the first handful of times for sure it was like, well, I don't remember what that's supposed to mean. But I use the deck that Trish mentioned, the Rider-Waite deck, which has pretty pretty descriptive images on it, on all of the cards. A lot of the decks for the minor arcana cards just they'll have, 4 wands on it, and then you got to kind of remember some numerology and whatever. But the deck I use has a picture on every single card, and so there's always something you can pick up there. Like I said, as a fiction writer, I'm always thinking in metaphor anyway. So I'm fairly good, I think, at talking my way into something meaning something. so kind of use that gift, if you will. But there is, times where there's certainly just feeling. There's a lot of body language is maybe the easiest way to describe it, but there's oftentimes a sort of you can feel the way somebody disposes themselves to a card. You can feel whether their attention is on it or whether it's not on it. You can feel whether they're confused about that card, or suddenly they're energized a little bit by it. And that often means something. That often maybe means just you need to put more attention on that card, or a different kind of attention on that card, because that one's gonna be very important for them.
Do you find any cards like appear more often than others? Because there's 72 or 73 cards in a deck.
Yeah, there's 78
like
cards. I have cards that show up for me a lot. My wife has cards that show up for her often. That don't show up for me, and who knows what what the magic is behind
does
that.
the death card come up because she just found out about how I used to pick up chicks with this?
Well, hey, I wouldn't say I ever picked it up, but they talked to me for like 10 minutes, and then they went off. But it was a good entry point. I just never did anything with it. So I would say cards do show up, like, for me, fairly often. The card I've gotten the last couple times that I've thrown some cards is the 9 of Pentacles. I'm just saying that because I have a deck right here. So
Wow.
9 of Pentacles is this
very
lady in a garden. Basically, she's got a little falcon on her hand. And yeah, that one pops up for me a lot, and it's about resilience, self-reliance, aspects of being in tune with nature. The falcon thing has a whole personal meaning for me that probably would take too long to explain, but it's weird to me that the one with the falcon in it shows up all the time. That feels like something's going. It feels like a weird synchronicity, to be honest. So that's pretty cool. So that definitely happens, and I have a couple of other friends that I read for pretty regularly that they will have like a couple of cards that seem like they show up almost every time.
Do you ever have like tarot showing up, because it started happening to me in your reality? Like, look, I was just walking my car the other day, and there was literally a playing card, a 2 of hearts right by my tire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, or like a king of something, or I'll be driving and see like a semi truck that says night on it, like KNI, and a number. I'm like, so my entire life's like,
No, that definitely happens. And it feels like you're kind of looking for it for sure, but it definitely pops up. There's the moon card, which meant a lot to me for a while, and still does, but resonated with a phase I was in with my life. The moon card has these 2 big towers in the back. And there's been a couple of times where I've like been having a moment and walked out into an area and been like had 2 towers of some kind, or something that looked like 2 chimneys or whatever. And just sort of thought, whoa, something.
Power moment.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start thinking about what that card means, and yeah, it's pretty it does get into your life and into your psyche for sure.
Can it get too overwhelming? Like, do you find yourself getting like sucked into it, and you're like, oh my god, this, that, and the other?
Not so much. I mean, to a certain extent. It's funny, I was talking to somebody about this one time who is a very traditionally religious person, and it was like he straightforward asked me, he was like, but don't you feel like you're inviting a demon into your life? And I was trying to take that question seriously. Like, do I feel like in some way there's something invading my life? And to be honest, it has been so helpful for me understanding what I'm experiencing that it feels like it feels sometimes like I've got a visor and I got a button I can push, and suddenly like you can kind of see the world in a slightly different way
Yeah.
because of that simple system. So yeah, I think it's done nothing but add, to be honest. So maybe I get sucked in a little bit, but it's been hugely helpful. So
Like we have a comment in here from a Gloria.
yeah,
I'm talking about mediums and stuff, and I
That's
can
probably directed towards me.
yeah.
maybe.
Well, you see, I have I'm like I don't have any gifts really. I'm like a scholar nerd guy. So Trish is probably like actually able to read people. I
Right,
need a
but
crutch.
it was negative.
Oh
I'm not
no.
very positive.
What? Come on.
Well,
Trish.
you know, like Doreen Virtue, she used to do. I don't know. I'm sure you, Brad, you've heard it. You, Trish, have you
That
heard
name
of
rings a
Doreen
bell.
Virtue? She did all these tarot cards, beautiful cards, and she said that she found Christ, and she believes that you're not supposed to do that, so she doesn't do it anymore. But that was her whole livelihood. I mean,
Wow.
she spent a lot of money on artists developing her cards, and if she did so many different shows on the tarot and angel card readings, and she doesn't do any of that anymore. And she
Wow.
has tons and tons of YouTube videos saying don't do it,
Wow.
because you're bringing the occult. But I can see the tarot cards because those go back to, like Trish, back into the Middle Ages. They've been doing tarot cards and a
Well,
lot.
and nowadays there's even I have like angel oracle decks and stuff. Nowadays
So do I.
there's even religious affiliated cards that people have created. So I see it as the other way, that and I don't know, Brad, you might agree with me. We were talking about symbolism in real life. I think that's where they originated, obviously. I think it was a way, we always use our intuition, and like you were saying, you don't feel like by using them it's brought anything negative into your life. If anything, it's been the opposite. And I feel the same way, because when I see in real life, like two towers or something, or a tower, and I'm like, okay, a tower moment, but that kind of helps you. I've probably avoided like car accidents and all kinds of things because I'm actually paying attention. By living in the present, it also helps me be present. I avoid things in my real life that would probably be potentially dangerous. It's kind of like, people say with witches and seeing a black cat. If I see a black cat, no, the cat itself is not bad and evil.
Right.
But I know in my life, that's probably symbolic of something in the near future. And it could be it could be my health, like my blood sugars drop, whatever. I started paying attention to these things. So I don't think, like, I don't specifically affiliate. And even when I got my hypnotherapy certification, in hypnotherapy, on a clinical basis, they affiliate, even like using the pendulum and things like that, with your higher conscious. Now, people in my class were of all religions, some very, very religious, but because you're not initially going by the old school stigma of all of that being bad and evil,
right,
more productive, a lot of healing things of their own, in their own lives and things like that. So I don't, I know what the Bible says, and I know, that's, again, I also believe any religious context is perspective as well. So
yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the one thing I guess I would add to that is one of the deepest, most interesting books on the tarot that I've read is called Meditations on the Tarot: A Journey into Christian Hermeticism, and it's a book about relating the tarot to Christian mysticism. And it's blurbed by, I wish I could remember his name, but it's blurbed by a guy who's dead now, but was a bishop and was a scholar at the Vatican. So it's not, and the entire book is about the tarot, right? It's 700 pages about the tarot, So it's not I think the fear around it being somehow blasphemous or something like that. I think I understand that perspective, but I think think it's right at the surface, and I think when you get down a little bit more into what the practice actually is, I think a lot of those concerns would go away personally. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
So-
trying to find my cards. I was going to try. I have these God cards. They're so cool.
Oh, cool.
Like,
Yeah.
geez, they have all these different pictures, and they're really cool.
Oh,
I
the
can't
amount
find
of
them.
decks is amazing. One thing I should say, this deck that Trish mentioned, and that I use, the Rider Waite Smith. We actually did an episode of the Art of Darkness on the illustrator who did these. So we
Oh,
talked
wow.
about her entire life.
Cool.
Fascinating figure, very much kind of forgotten. I mean,
Oh,
the
wow.
woman's name is Pamela Coleman Smith. She did the illustrations for a long time. The deck was called the Rider Waite deck, and her name wasn't even on it. It was a bunch of dudes basically took her work and tried to capitalize on it. But she was a fascinating figure. She was a synesthete, so when she heard music, she saw visions.
Oh,
She's a very, very
That's amazing.
interesting person. So she did a lot of she illustrated that entire deck in like 2 months or something like that. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, she's an
Holy
impressive
crap.
person. So
some of them are so beautiful.
they really are. Yeah, and it's a very cool style. It's very very unique. So
So your book
yeah.
on the tarot. Now, explain to us like you're doing a series.
I'm doing a series. Yeah, I'll probably try to get it into a book when the whole deck is done, when I work my way through the whole deck.
So
But
you're
yeah.
going to go through each card in the or
Oh man.
Yeah, all 78. That's the
Oh,
plan.
boy.
Yeah, I'm a patient guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Does your wife have?
See you in a
does your
couple
wife
years.
have patience, huh?
Yeah, she does. Yeah. She knows what I'm up to. So
and she's a reader.
yeah, she is for sure. Yeah. So she likes.
So how
she
come you
likes my
don't do
stuff.
a like on a side gig? How come you don't? What's your
Do-
reasoning for not?
read tarot cards? One, I'm kind of too busy. I mean, I might still. Yeah, I'm open to that for sure. One thing is that I kind of just started it as a personal thing, and then started doing it for. I don't even want to say for fun, but as a way to. The one thing about tarot is if you get reasonably good at reading cards, you can go from "Hey, how are you doing?" to the deepest conversation you've ever had in about 2 minutes. So
Takes a lot of energy.
it does.
A
Yeah,
lot of
it'll
energy.
tap you out for sure. But so it became this kind of cool thing. You're sitting down with your friend and you're like, all of a sudden you guys are talking about like core stuff about their being and the
Mhm.
way that they, and it's a little bit exhilarating,
Welcome
honestly.
to the dark side.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to go there, right? Sometimes you have to go there. So yeah, I mean, at some point,
This is
it
why
has never
people
made
don't
sense
like
for me to read them for people. And
Now you need to do that with people and have notebooks, pens, and instruments laying around.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
there'll be
sure.
all
Yeah, you
kinds of
turn it
stuff
into
coming out.
something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I integrate into my creative process too. So the novel writing is kind of my first thing. I will do tarot spreads for characters to figure out.
Oh,
all right,
that is
what
really.
is their deal?
I
Where are
like
they
that.
going? Where have they been?
That's
and
cool.
it actually
I
adds
should do that.
it adds a
Hmm.
dimension to them almost immediately. So
Did you
Yeah.
do it?
It's a way to unblock sometimes a lot of the creative processes, or
Yeah.
even if you're trying to make. I know a lot of people, including myself, use it occasionally for say you're trying to decide on 2 different houses to buy, or any major decision like that.
yeah,
In your book, Brad, right? Did you for the cult leader?
Yeah.
Did you lay a spread out for him?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
And for all your characters for that book?
Yeah, that book is 3 major characters where you get like scenes from their perspective or whatever, and yeah, they all had spreads, and I figured out where they all fit on what's called the Fool's Journey.
That
Which
is
is-
that is
yeah.
really a good idea.
Yeah, because it gives you these are old patterns of how things are, and even if a person wanted to say for your own life they're kind of silly or whatever, in the fictional world it's perfect, right? Because these are patterns that have survived and people have found resonance in them because they're on some level true. And so the fool goes, the magician goes into the high priestess, and that makes sense. So it's really cool for that process, integrating into the creative process for sure.
That's amazing. How long did it take you to? I mean, you said you're still learning, but how long did it take you to learn all the cards? Like, I know you said you don't.
Yeah. To like do a spread, to like confidently do a spread for somebody.
Yeah.
I would say when I started getting into it, I was reading about the cards and looking at the cards like every day for half an hour, hour, for probably about 6 months before, before I felt like I could confidently, because it's not just knowing what the one card is, it's the multiple cards, and it's telling a story. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but presenting it to the person you're reading for, where all of the cards are talking to each other. So it's not just the individual cards, but it's understanding what to take from each one to make them work together, and you're weaving a tapestry that might be meaningful to this person. And then also starting to pick up, and then that's just reading the first time you read for a person. Then you have to start understanding how to read the person, which is also a challenge, right? To really, what is their, from how they start into it. I've had friends who are very very smart guys, but very skeptical sorts of dudes, scientist type figures, and I had to tell them, I was like, listen, I know you think this is all BS, but just bear with me, okay? you gotta try. You have to try too. This isn't me trying to prove something to you. Sit down, let's go through this. And those people have all universally sort of gotten something out of it at the very least. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Cool idea.
A lot of people.
I like your energy, Brad.
I appreciate it, man. I like doing this, and I'm so glad you guys invited me on. So this is really cool.
So a lot of people that I've run into, over the years, they always say, like, you don't want to mess with tarot, you don't want to mess with an Ouija board. And a lot of people, I think, like kind of categorize them together. What's your opinions on? Like, what's your opinion on that? Just so people.
Yeah, I don't. Ouija board, I haven't really messed with since I was a kid. I don't know what to make of it. Yeah. Trish probably knows much more about that than me.
I think it's intention. I mean, because a lot of tarot readers do, especially if you're tapping into, other people's energy and doing it for, there's some readers that just do collective readings and things like that. So they're not necessarily tapping into a specific person's energy. When you're doing it for a specific person, you're tapping into their energy. People don't realize the spiritual entities and attachment. I mean, it might not be the person themselves that has something negative, but something that might be attached to them. And that's where I think that the board, I don't know if you do that yourself and call in different, based on a person's religion or whatever. You'll hear a lot of readers say, asking for their ancestors or spirit guides or angels or whoever to join them. So I think that's important, who you're calling in.
Yeah. I mean, I for doing a tarot reading for somebody, I will certainly say a prayer, and I'll sort of also take a moment of, just because I want to meet them where they're at, right? So I'm going to I take it fairly seriously. And I don't know exactly what I'm messing with. I'd be honest about that. Like, I don't pretend to know all of the levels of what this thing is, but I do think that if you, like most things in life, if you go at it well-intentioned and sort of pure of heart, you're safe from most of the bad stuff that can happen.
Now, if you're doing a reading for like a serial killer, I would probably, you know what I mean? Just
serial killer. I don't want to be reading anybody's serial killer.
I'm just like,
that's pure evil. That's pure evil.
You're right. Yeah.
Hey, Brad, I did some research on you, and you were, I forget where it was from, but you talk about owls.
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit about the owls?
Yeah. You can't see it here, but I have like 12 or 13 owl tchotchkes, like right here. So, like, I'll just pull one. I have a bunch of these just sort of sitting here.
Nice.
Yeah. So owls, I guess you would call it sort of my spirit animal or whatever. But they're, and again, I'm sort of obsessed with symbology and metaphor, right?
Sorry.
Yeah. What's that?
Owls creep me out.
Yeah, they kind of should.
Doesn't that mean when you see an owl, doesn't that mean death?
No.
Well, see, it depends on the sort of the poetic kind
For
of
mice,
tradition
yeah.
that you're dealing with. The Middle Ages, the owl was thought of as an avatar of Satan, but that
Hmm.
has not that interpretation sort of hasn't survived because the Greeks had a totally different interpretation, and other traditions have as well. For me, the owl is a symbol of wisdom. And then there's a couple other things that they're sort of metaphorical about them. They can turn their head in all directions, right? So there's an ability to see what maybe otherwise is very difficult to see. They hunt at night and in silence, which is
Mm.
creeps me out just to say it.
Yeah.
Poor
But
mice.
it means
Yeah, right.
but it means something about being able to operate in realms of the mind that are occluded. So being able to go into the sort of the depths, I suppose, and retrieve something. So they mean something to me in that regard, and I've had a lot of dreams about them.
Really?
So yeah, they just show up in my
When you
dreams.
hear, I had thought it was when you hear an owl, that means someone's going to die.
See, I've never heard that particular one, but there are certainly,
always
yeah, there are a lot of, they're always a creature that has like mystified and terrified people forever.
Most,
Yeah.
Did they ever
most,
figure out how many
most
licks
people
it
that-
takes to get to the center of a Tootsie
Man,
Pop?
that was coming.
No, but that owl's the one to ask. They would know if anybody.
A lot of abductees dream of owls.
Yes.
Those are the main
Yeah. No,
ones.
that's really good. I was going to bring that up too. You're totally right. I think there's
That's
an
why they
entire
scare
book
me.
about this.
But
Owls are
Yeah.
neat. They can like turn their head all the way around. That's freaky.
They
Well, I have
can't.
a statue
Well,
outside that does that, but it's supposed to scare away the big
supposed
birds
to
from
wear the
eating
crows and
toys.
things. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We got a lot of turkey vultures and hawks around here.
Yeah, so they're just fascinating animals. I relate to them, and it's funny. My co-host on Art of Darkness, artofdarkpod.com, is his name is Kevin Kautzman, and I didn't know this for a long time, but that translates to Owl Man.
Oh, wow.
And I had an owl thing like before I met him, so it's kind of like we have like some kind of astral fate to meet each other and be friends. So that's kind of cool too.
That's amazing stuff.
Have you ever thought about doing your own tarot? Doing the artwork?
Reading.
Everything?
Oh, doing the artwork. I'm not really enough of an artist probably to do that. I've definitely thought about maybe trying to collaborate with somebody.
Mhm.
But then I started collecting decks, and I've got 12 or 15 decks now, and there's so many of them. I feel like I'm the kind of person, I don't like to, and maybe this is a lack of confidence or something. I don't really like to delve into something unless I feel like I'm going to be really good at it.
Hmm.
And I'm a little overwhelmed by trying to do a tarot deck. It's taken me so long to be able to write a novel that I'm afraid I don't have enough lifetimes to master that craft too.
I always wanted to do, but I just
It's interesting to me for sure as a project. It's super interesting.
very
What
interesting.
do you think of the definitions of the cards in your own perspective?
Yeah, like what do I like? What's
The
my take?
definitions of each card.
Yeah, they've sort of changed over time. I don't think anybody. What I think is that nobody is the authority on them. So they've all been, they've been interpreted over and over and over again by some very learned and intelligent people, some very empathic people, and I think what ends up happening is like a lot of these things, a lot of sort of symbol systems, is you just pile interpretations on one after the other, and over time what resonates will stay and what doesn't will get washed away. And so what we're left with now is this corpus of books and interpretations. You can take whichever ones make sense, not take whatever other ones don't make sense. And I think ultimately anybody who delves into this is going to come up with their own sort of dictionary of meanings. And I think that is actually, I used to be a little bit hesitant about coming up doing that, but as I spend more time with it, I feel like that's the destiny of anybody who's going to read tarot, take it seriously and really dive into it, is you're going to come up and it's going to be not entirely your own. It's going to be pulled from different sources and different times you read, and you're like, whoa, I really saw that happen in this reading, and now that's a permanent part of that card for me. But yeah, so I think it's I don't think there are strict meanings, but I think there are, you could take stuff and try to make up your own. That would be ridiculous. You could take the death card and try to make it about getting rich or something, and this wouldn't make sense, really, right? But as long as you can make the metaphors work for you, then that's what it means.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes me want to read.
Haunted houses work a lot like that too. You get all these people coming from all over the world, and there's been tons of different perspectives and historical findings, and you have layers and layers of history and people's energy in there and stuff. And it always comes down to kind of collective findings from all of it,
Yeah. This is one of the reasons I like to use the Rider-Waite, and this is nothing against other cards. Part of the reason I like to use it is because it's been probably used by the most people. And so there's something about that by itself. Like every time I look at a card, it's like millions of people have looked at this card and tried to figure it out. And there's something about the energy of that I think is in it somehow. So yeah.
What book do you use? Do you use a book, or do you just follow the definitions in the book, the cards?
My favorite. There's sort of 3 levels. So if somebody were just trying to like get started, learntarot.com is amazing. They're pretty straightforward. It's all there. It's all easy to kind of navigate through. And then for me, the big one is, and it's sort of the next maybe level up, is Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Is a great one.
70 Degrees of Wisdom.
78 Degrees of Wisdom. Yeah. So 78 cards, 78 degrees. And then I got really into, there's a couple volumes of the Jungian Tarot, like Carl Jung, by Robert Wang, which was great. And then the granddaddy of them all is Meditations on the Tarot, A Journey into Christian Hermeticism, which is you could just spend
too deep for me.
Yeah, you could spend the rest of your life just reading that book, and then when you get to the end, starting over. So
yeah, I always wanted to do it, but I did angel card readings for my friends and families, and from the time I was a little kid, I was drawn to it, but I was always afraid because, I'm a Christian, and I'm a Catholic, and I just felt that I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't charge people. But then I started thinking it's a gift, just like any gift, like art, writing.
There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with charging people for it.
Yeah, and then I think, well, why not? If I paint, why I'm going to charge people? And I thought, well, maybe I have to think of it as a different way, so I don't.
And you're not like making people pay you. You're not.
Yeah, I don't know. If you have a donation, you can donate.
Yeah, if they're giving it to you, and especially if they come back, then that. Like, if you give somebody a reading and they come back,
I'm good.
Later,
I'm really good at doing.
Yeah.
I could see. I don't know the definitions to the cards per se, all of them. I just look at them and then I read. I just can. I'm pretty good. And
you're an empath. See,
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, I don't have that. I'm a nerd, so I have to
Why do you say
research.
that? You're not a nerd.
I don't think that's true. I think you wouldn't be drawn to stuff like that if you weren't at some level empathic.
Thank you.
And most people,
I appreciate that. I probably have a little bit of it, but I don't. I certainly feel the need that I need to like read and read and read and read and read. So.
But that's just because I think I feel that way in the aspect when you're talking about you feel like you have to master something before you can do it.
That's what I feel. I feel like I should master the cards.
But I don't think that has anything to do with being empathic or not. I think that's just being a perfectionist, and we all get in that to some degree. And it's stuck kind of in that instead of just starting something or actually doing it and putting it out there and then you see other people's work and you're like, well, that only took them 2 months. Like, well,
Right.
I've been working on this for like 40 years, you know, and
Right.
but
Everybody's
that's the
story's
difference. Like,
different.
I think that's more of a perfectionism thing, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said,
Yeah.
a lot of us are like that, rather than an empathic thing, or just self-doubt, almost
Yeah.
I'm that way with even mediumship. You know, I'll think of all these channelings, and then I'm like, well, now I have to go research them scientifically because
Right.
I don't know that side of it.
Yeah.
Just
But,
to
but yeah, do you
prove to
really?
like the nerd groups
Yeah.
something, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that in by any means. I'm saying like making fun of myself as far as, because I feel like I don't know enough on a subject. But you just
That's what
have to
I feel.
start.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
But you
Brad,
know it.
Yeah, Sean.
Brad, with all these, all the books that you read and you study up on,
Yeah.
don't you get confused at the different authors and what they have to say in the books?
Oh yeah.
So how do you sort it out?
Well, that's part of what that's honestly part of what this me writing these things about each card is about, is like I said, the only way, the tried and true means for me to think is to write. And so I need to go through each card, and I'll reread the chapters in sort of my favorite books on that card, and then I'll put them away, and then I'll think about my life and what's a moment or a phase that resonated. And it's not so much that I need to separate them from each other, but I need to filter them so what makes the most sense to me remains.
Okay.
And then if I forget who came up with that, and it doesn't matter too much, I guess. Yeah,
You
but
seem
that's
so
a great
young to
question. I
know
mean,
all that.
yeah, it's a great question. It's like anything. It's it can get you can get kind of analysis paralysis, I think they call it, where it's like you've got so much information, you suddenly you
Overload.
can't make a decision. It's like, yeah, you gotta. That's
Oh,
difficult
yeah.
to get
That's
through.
me most of the time.
Yeah, me too.
Just hit a roadblock.
Yeah.
Have you ever been blocked in your writings?
In writing, yeah, all the time. Yeah, I mean, writing a novels is writer's block is part of the process, in my opinion, for sure. So that happens. My strategy on that is you just keep showing up, and then sometimes you just sit there and nothing happens, and you just
Oh, yeah.
you just show up
It's like
again
the
the
same
next
thing
day.
with writing music, you know. It's
Mhm.
like you could be writing something that's coming along awesome, you know, you get a verse, a pre-chorus,
Yeah.
whatever, and then you just flop, and you just can't grasp it. But what I've done is, you never want to force it.
Right.
Sometimes just step away, come back another day, and then when it just comes out like fire, that's when you know you
When
have
you
it.
get those
Yeah.
times where nothing
So
comes
it's
out.
just cool to, it's literally the same thing for all different, for authors and writers
Yeah,
and musicians and
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy I know who described the artistic process as boring yourself until you mildly hallucinate. That's how he described the creative process, which I thought was pretty good. It's like,
Was there LSD involved?
there could be, but it is not necessary. Just sitting there until like, man, I'm really not doing anything else. I guess I'm gonna write this thing. So yeah.
Or you want to do so many different things. You want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do this.
Yeah,
And you can't focus on which one to
yeah,
do.
that's a challenge too, for sure. And the novel has taught, writing a novel as a craft has taught me so much about patience that it's been worth it for that almost by itself.
Do you write an outline, or do you by the seat of your pants?
And it's a little bit of both. I mean, yeah, I kind of know where it's generally going to end up, but I'll write 15 drafts of a chapter, so things change for sure.
So you do it chapter by chapter, or do you finish the novel and then do the drafts?
Yeah, I write it like a third of the way, and then I go back to the beginning, and then halfway,
wow.
and then back to the
See,
beginning,
I've never
and then
finished if I
2/3 of the
did that.
way, and then yeah. It takes
James
a long time.
Patterson has the longest outlines I've ever seen in my life. I took
Yeah.
his master class. I was like,
Oh,
oh my
okay.
God.
Yeah, he's a what they call he's a plotter for sure.
Oh yeah. He's a
I'm
plotter.
somewhere in between. I have plots, and they're going somewhere, and I generally know where, but I would describe it as I had a great writing teacher describe it as this way of doing it is like, imagine you're in a foreign city and you're staying in a hotel room or whatever, and you walk out on the balcony and you see a church or whatever tourist attraction you want to see, and it's way over there, and you can see it, but it's foreign city. You don't know how to get there.
How to get
You
there.
just know at some point in the day, you're by side roads and sidewalks and whatever, crossing bridges, that you will get there. That is kind of how I would describe it.
That's
Like, I
cool.
know ultimately where it ends up at.
Yeah, I know the ending before I know how to get there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay, how am I
yeah,
gonna
for
get
sure.
there?
For sure. So a
That's
lot of
like
it's just
the
figuring that out.
laws of attraction. You know, you focus on your end goal, and you kind of, or with anything, with
Mhm.
with writing stuff, I kind of, especially sci-fi stuff, I initially did it like a crime scene, you know, because I was a criminal justice, and so you start at the end where the crime was, and you work your way out, you know, and that's how I always all my English teachers and stuff always suggested that.
Oh, that's a great way, because it's like there's only so many ways to get to where you're at right now that makes sense, right? And so
Yeah.
you take those step back, and then from there, there's
Good
only so many
advice.
ways that make sense to get here. So
Well,
yeah,
Brad, where can we find you at? And
Yeah.
for our audience,
sure, yeah.
listeners.
My website's Brad Kelly-esque. That's KELLYESQUE.com. I'm really active on Twitter for Twitter folks at Brad Kelly. It's just my name. Podcast is artofdarkpod.com. We're having new episodes every week or two. And that's also on Twitter. We're really active
Definitely.
there at Art
Definitely.
of Dark Pod.
Ladies and gentlemen, check them out. Thanks for joining us tonight, Brad.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Pleasure.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Brad.
thanks for having me. This
Enjoyed
was
it.
so
Good.
much fun. I really appreciate
You
it.
have a great
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Have a
be
good one.
good. Thank you.
Fascinating. I
Yes,
loved it.
very much.
Very
Yeah,
good.
a lot of good information.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good information. Well, this hour is sponsored by Carnation, so make sure you check them out. They're delicious. Thank you so much, Carnation, for sponsoring this hour of Chasing Prophecy. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube, because we need your subscriptions. It's good night. We have we're going to do 45 more minutes, and we're going to talk about some interesting things, like what's going on out there. Um, a lot of crazy stuff is happening in the UFO world again. So we're gonna
I
be-
was reading that. Yeah.
did you read that article I sent?
Yeah, I read that. Pretty interesting.
Okay, which did you read? The one about Sherry?
Yeah.
We talked, yeah, Sherry Hinkle. I got a lot of her information. She helped me when I was doing my third book of my trilogy, Aurora's Curtain, about the underground bases. And she knows a lot about this stuff, because she herself has been abducted and taken underground and all other places. But I find her to be fascinating. And I want to read just a little thing that she because she has a whole bunch of the Doise papers, Doise papers, Deutsche. They're all pronounced. Every place pronounces Problem Sarge pronounces it some way different than John Venturi. Okay,
Ooh.
he's running for governor of Pennsylvania. But it's a good topic, and I think it's really neat that she goes into it's called The Hiding the Big Secret by Sherry Hinkle. For over 65 years, this is her own writing, I have been trying to enlighten the world about ETs, UFOs that fly across the sky of Earth, and has become obvious that the military forces of Earth are helpless against these beings. They can fly circles around the military craft. They can do fly circles around any airplane. The military Air Force planes of this world are limited to the fly in linear paths. The UFOs are not limited that way. They can make right angles mid-air, instantly stop, or take off in any direction faster than you can blink your eye. And she says, no, the last line is a hint, so I hope someone pays attention. The high-ranking men and women of the military of Earth know the truth about these beings, and a few of them more mundane citizens of the planet sometimes stumble across the truth while doing UFO studies. When we do find the truth, we just stop and wonder why the rest of the world hasn't found it too. I believe it's because no one can believe anything so basic can be so real. The truth is fantastic and beyond belief, but real. Think beyond the normal limits of fantasy. Consider a game of what if. Note another clue. Think fantasy, think fantastic. And do not be afraid to think beyond the mundane. People assume the answer is the sky outside the borders of Earth's atmosphere. Think again. It's closer, much closer. NASA is not interested in space, my friend, or haven't you noticed that yet? Think. So we're going back. I believe she's saying it's right here. It's in the ground. It's under the earth. It's in the ocean. It's on Earth. What do you guys think?
I believe I totally agree with you on that. Up here in Johnstown, PA, I have friends up there, and they live out in the woods. And every now and then they see like 3 or 4 unmarked trucks drive up this road. There's a pipeline up in that area up there. And after, doing all our UFO research stuff in our shows, a lot of things has to deal with the pipeline. So I believe that there is an underground, base up in Johnstown, Somerset area up there. Because with the unmarked trucks and the road that they travel, it's just a dirt road. And there's like...
Did you ever follow them?
I don't know. I have to ask her that. But I told her, I said, maybe sometime in the summertime when it's a little warm out, I will go up there and follow the road and actually follow that pipeline and see what happens, what we can find.
Trish, what do you think?
Are you reading that comment? Is that what you're laughing at?
Unmarked vehicles in forest. That happens a lot here, actually. But Kansas has some of the most expensive underground tunneling systems in the entire U.S. We have more than, it's like half the state. I mean, the government used to use them to, and it still does, maybe to my knowledge, to store documents and such. And then Kansas City had an entire underground, they called it like a underground metropolis type thing. But yeah, I'm definitely, with my abduction history, I'm definitely not following an unmarked vehicle into the forest. That's what it is. Like, you get abducted, man.
No, I can see where Sean's saying that.
Absolutely, I believe that, and I think of the earth and anything, as above so low, as like an apartment building, or even in big houses, when you have like a cellar or a basement and an attic, and you don't always know what's living, especially if you live in a city, you don't know what's in your basement or your cellar a lot of times. So somebody could be living down there. You don't always know if you're in an apartment building who's above you or who's below you. It's the same concept to me. So, and that's very basic to explain it.
Some of the stuff that she has published is horrifying, and I remember when I was asking her for about the underground base, and it's just Deutsche Papers, she calls it, by Sherry Hinkle. She said this, because I told her it was a young adult book, and she goes, "This is not for young adults." Whoa. That's how horrifying it is, but I did it anyways. So,
and that's the thing with me. Like, those things are triggering to me because I came from New Mexico, I've been back there in different experiences. So, absolutely.
Hey, Trish, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was reading that article that you sent me, Jen, and as I further went down, it was saying that a lot of the abductees, they had burn marks or headaches.
You're talking about the other article?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
To me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Tons of times.
I mean, do you get burn marks? What happens to you?
Burns.
There's radiation, probably marks from the radiation.
Yeah. I've had radiation poisoning. You name it.
Oh, wow. Okay, I was just asking,
Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, with all the accounts of, people talking about the underground tunnels and in the oceans, I believe it's highly possible that there's UFOs that we just don't know where they're at, from all the sightings and everything. But what do you guys think about it? It seems a lot of more than often than not, they're coming out of the ocean waters rather than,
Yeah.
a lot of people see
Yeah,
them
that's what
coming
she's
out of the
saying. A lot of
ocean.
it's going into
So
the
are
ocean.
they on the ocean floor? Do we think that we can't, the depths that we can't reach, or do we think that they're, using the ocean as an entry and exit, and then have the tunnels underground? There's so
There's
many.
probably tunnels under the ocean floor.
Probably. Well, look how deep the
That's
Mariana
one theory.
Trench is.
Yeah, we can't even get to the
That's-
bottom of that.
Yeah.
But I've also thought about, so it's kind of like when we were talking about the lightning balls, right? Like the energetic, they can travel along electrical lines and grid lines and things like that. And that's using electricity. And so to me, I'm like, well, yes, absolutely, there could be underground under the ocean, but what if they're using the water as an element to assist in their travel? Kind of like an interdimensional thing, I guess. I don't know how to explain that, but because water has been depicted in every religion, every culture, and every is almost a living thing to an extent. There's, when you think of it in that aspect. So what if they're using that as kind of an aid in helping them travel?
True.
And that's just their entry and exit points, like you said.
But I also read too that water it's like a refueling thing for them, that they draw a lot of energy from the water, which gives them a lot more strength or a lot more power to go up in the air,
I've seen that, and lightning also.
You okay, Jen?
No, there's a comment. Can't help herself.
Reading these comments.
We have a comment. It says, my dog fell asleep next to me and was farting right in my face while I was having a sleep paralysis episode. It went on for 4 hours. I couldn't move and was fully aware.
Jesus, Lord help us.
Lord have
That is a
mercy on
crappy
my soul.
situation.
Yeah. Who was that?
Hopefully, hopefully they didn't end up with pink eye out of that.
Oh my God. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think they draw water. They draw the energy from the UFOs. The water gives them more energy.
I definitely do. I mean, I think that a lot of the, I think they're right underneath our. Oh, I have to share this with you guys. I have to find out what that. There's do you remember that YouTube video? YouTube with Saturday Night Live with their counseling on. They were abducted and they were doing a group counsel. You remember?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This again.
There's a series on There's a series based off of that, and there's two girls from Saturday Night Live that they're starring in. It's a comedy. It is. I watched it. I finished the whole first season of it. It's called. Let me tell you what it's called because it's so stupid.
Tell us what it's called, Jenny.
It might take me a while. So let me.
We're used to it.
It's terrible. I videotaped it and showed it to my kids because I was laughing. I couldn't. It is so stupid. I want to see if I can find you a clip on it because it is stupid. But I can't remember the name of it. It's so bad. I'm terrible. Wait a minute. Let's see. Oh, where was it? I have so many videos. It was so fun. It reminded me of that YouTube video. I'm serious. I was like, oh my God, that is so funny. It's the same stupid. Where the heck is it?
Well, you'll find it. I want to ask Trish a question. Trish, whenever you were out in New Mexico and with the underground bases that they have out there, did the earth shake like a tremor of some sort anywhere around in that area? Where they supposed to be at?
No, well, I think in the mountains it did a lot, but they did so much testing up there with different things. They, we never knew whether it was like we had a lot of sonic booms from when they were testing the stealth fighter jets when those first came out. They test them over the mountains before anybody in the world saw them, for that matter. And then there's also another thing I was going to say about the water thing in New Mexico. They have bottomless lakes, and people swim in them, and it's crazy to me. I would never swim in it because that freaks me out. But they've never, they're supposedly deeper than the ocean.
Really? I didn't hear
And they
that.
just go down to a gigantic hole, and there's no end to it. Not that man has found, anyway. So that's why they're called bottomless. And those are in New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Possibility there in order might have a UFO base down in there then. Huh?
And then I've always thought that in that specific area, and then of course, you always hear about things in Central America as well, like in Mexico. And do you all think that it has something to do with being close to the equator? Because that axis, we always talk about the different ley lines and parallels, but New Mexico and Arizona, where there's been tons of sightings and, the Phoenix lights and all that, and then right across on the Mexican border and south of that, do you think it has to do with the equator as well?
I think so. Like when I was in the Navy, I spent 3 years out at sea, and crossed the equator 3 times. So I believe that. I mean,
Maybe
Did
there's
the water go
sort of
down the drain the opposite
magnetic-
direction, Sean?
oh, dude, I'm telling you, no. When you cross the equator, there is something that really messes with your body when you do cross it. I mean, literally.
I found the YouTube promo.
Oh,
of it.
Jenny's excited. We're in trouble now.
It's called People of Earth. Okay, this is a share, so you can make fun of me. Are you ready? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Sure, on. The feed is on. Everyone can see us.
It's so stupid.
We can see you. You're in the wide open. Get down. Don't talk to me.
So what exactly does
This is on.
I'm struggling with the emptiness of my life, and I need
Oh,
to find
jeez.
I've been chasing Bigfoot a little too long now.
Oh my God.
Is he?
Is she? And yes,
Maybe all this would be easier to accept if I just had some proof.
they made contact. You are special. Oh, what is this?
Me.
Will remain.
It's my speed. No, I watched the whole season 1 on the other day. They're like short. They're like maybe 35 minutes.
Did you binge watch them all?
Yes. Yes, I did. It reminds me sort of like What We Do in the Shadows on FX. I don't know if you guys ever watched that. It's a documentary.
Oh,
comedy.
yeah, a few years ago.
It's so stupid. I watched I'm updated. I love it. It's funny. It's the vampires that they're doing a documentary, and I like what's his name? The little dude. He's the familiar. Guillermo. I like Guillermo. He's funny. He wants to be a vampire, and his master won't. He won't change him, turn him. It's so stupid. That's my kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff. But it reminded me of when we were doing the show when we played that.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's so stupid. It's funny. But you know what? That one guy looks like Astar Command.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Isn't that the one where our guest was like in love with him or met him? And remember that one? Yeah.
We shouldn't make fun of these people because
I'm just stating the
Sorry.
fact there.
Trish, you weren't on here then. Were you? I can't remember.
I don't think she was. I think it was just the 3 of us. Me, Jason, and
She
me.
says that she communicates with this Ashtar, and he's the commander of this ship that orbits Earth. And she was in love with him, and she was sexually attracted to him.
Well, there's a lot of so Ashtar is the
Sounds
name.
like a submarine somewhere. Do you hear the beacon?
Well, but even, all of these, so there's different beings or entities, or some people consider it a group. It's a very
Yeah, they look like that guy, the blonde hair dude.
Yeah, and so there's
Watch
tons of
them
people that
visit him
say
tonight,
they
Trish.
communicate with Ashtar, and
So there's more than one person. I mean, there is. You've heard of this guy?
yeah, a lot of the C5 groups and
The
stuff
Nordics?
communicate with specific.
Do they look like that guy?
Now, I don't know whether they consider Ashtar a singular being or if it's like a group they're communicating with. But yeah, that's a very it's a very common thing, actually. They
Thanks, Trish. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
No, it's like Google it now. It's
I
been
am
around- I mean, since,
Googling
like,
it right now. I don't want
Ashtar's
him.
going to visit you in your sleep.
I know he's gonna come and visit.
Yeah,
He's
there's like
gonna-
a whole
and he's gonna
galactic
take you to
command
the-
thing.
Great.
To the ship.
Great.
And this is it's very serious to people. Like they go out in groups to communicate.
Oh
with
God, it looks just
specific
like him.
entities.
I have to take. I'm gonna put this picture up. Yeah, great. Thanks.
I'm just saying, there's a whole Ashtar command. So
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting here making fun of him, and he's gonna come and he's gonna show me a thing or two.
You're going to get probed.
I know.
Oh, well. For all you young
He
listeners,
looks
out
just
there-
like that character, doesn't he?
yeah.
That
And
looks
then
like,
there's,
what's his name out of Ghostbusters? The paint
Right.
on the wall. What was it? Vigor or something?
Oh my gosh, they named this homeschool platform Ashtar.
You're kidding me. Where?
I don't know. It's like a K through 12.
It's a school.
Yeah.
They're probably aliens.
But then you also have to be kind of sensitive because let's just completely, we're definitely referring to the extraterrestrial, not the Arabic god. We're not making fun of that in any way, shape, or form because that is a thing. So
Somebody's calling the police on us. It go.
well,
Spammer.
so that's what I was. So there, yes, it's funny. I didn't even see that. So because there's that's the name. That's a name. Like when you say Ashtar, it's like nobody quote me, but I know it has to do with Arabic history and something.
Oh, great.
And, like, and stuff. It's a god, but we're
I'm
not
sorry. Don't
referring
call the
to
police
that.
on me. I didn't mean anything. Bye.
Right, we're not referring to that one. We are referring to the galactic.
Yeah, but don't worry about the police. Look at their
command.
name.
I know.
Jeez.
We're gonna be hacked.
In no way, against the Muslim religion.
Oh my Lord, jeez. Okay, back onto hot topics. Hot topics. That what do we call?
Anybody
it?
been to that store? It's been a
Review.
while.
Off topic.
I got one.
Okay.
Oh,
How
Go
about
ahead. Go ahead, caller. I'm losing my mind.
I was watching the news with Elon Musk buying into Twitter.
Oh yes, congratulations! Now we can
Yeah.
have America back.
10%. I think about 10% of the company, which was
Good
like
for him. Good
Yeah.
for him. I wonder if he's going to let Donald Trump come back.
Well, that's what everybody is saying on him. They're going to see how legit he really is.
I think he's legit.
I mean, well, I do too, but I
You
think
can't say anything.
now you can with him on the board.
I hope so. It's going to be nice to be that rich.
wasn't there something that said like if you made 10 grand a day since the time the pyramids were built till now, you still wouldn't have as much money as Elon Musk or something like that?
How did he make all his money? Was it just the
cars?
Just the cars?
Yeah, the electrical cars.
No one can afford those cars, though. Do you know how much one of those electric cars are?
Have any of you seen the
$65,000.
ones that catch on fire and burn people's houses down?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to plug them in.
Yeah.
Right. Now think about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Sean. Think about it.
A
Go
full
ahead.
charge, a full charge,
about
a full charge on one of them cars. Say like they go 100 miles. So what are you going to do? Stop and recharge? And
Well, what are you going to do if you're driving through a deserted, like
Carry
that's
some
what I'm
batteries in a
saying.
a
suitcase.
desert? And then,
why would you want to get one?
put
were you
solar
supposed to,
panels on
were
the
they going
roof.
to have charging stations everywhere?
There
Well,
is
doesn't
some-
Tesla have that built into their system that you could punch in like where you're going? Like, say you're going on a trip, and it'll tell you where there's
Yeah, but
charging
what if you
stations
get
along the way or something.
lost?
But then you gotta sit there for half an hour.
Or you
Right.
get
Sit there for half
attacked
an hour.
by the cartel, like on what Better Call Saul. I don't know if you guys watched that. I watched that too.
And I think they also said, well, if you got a flat tire on one, you got to get all four of them again because they're equally weighted or whatever. I heard
I don't
that.
know. I'm not buying an electric car. Sorry.
I'm not.
I'm sorry. I'm not. No.
Can you imagine? Imagine this. It's the middle of summer. It's 100 degrees out. Everybody's got their air conditioners running, and now they got to plug their cars in if they already didn't overheat and explode in the heat. And now the
No.
power grid's just going to sink. You
No
know,
way. Sorry. Can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't
We're
do it.
not built for that yet.
I won't
No.
do it. I can't do it. I don't, for God's sake. Okay, moving on to okay, the X-Files Pentagon released another 1,500 pages. That's what you were talking about before, Sean, right?
Yeah.
Secret documents about shadowy UFOs. Okay, so we have all this stuff from the Defense Intelligence Agency. Okay, so why aren't they? I know what like Sherry says. Well, they're here. So why? What's the point of even showing this? And this one looks really scary.
Well,
Okay,
see, the only problem I have with that, it comes from the Sun magazine. And isn't that a tabloid?
no, sometimes it is a tabloid, but no, because this is true. They've been talking about this for
National Esquire.
Well, no,
How
they've
did
been
you
talking
Men in
about
Black. That's where they get their information.
The Onion.
Isn't the Men in Black? Aren't they? Aren't they the government people?
Yeah, but they go investigate
Smith and Tommy.
stories that they've seen in tabloids because they think nobody, people.
Well, you know what? That's what the Project Blue Book did. Did you ever watch that series on the History Channel? Project Blue Book, they actually did do that. They'd hear these stories, like you said.
Yeah, because they think nobody would believe it, but those are actually more realistic than.
Yeah. And according to this, it said the DIA, the Department of Defense spy arm, said some portions of the documents must be withheld in part due to privacy. Now, come on, confidentiality concerns.
So
Well, you can't release.
whole
It's just like
article-
crimes. You can't release people's names. They would be targeted.
Yeah, but come
So
on.
then why would you publish that in a magazine telling everybody that they were unclassified? And then you
Well,
read it.
according to they said that they discussed it with the Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, but didn't they talk about didn't Trump say that they told him too that there were alien or UFOs?
Yeah,
We know they're
yeah.
UFOs. We've seen the UFO pictures. I want to see more than UFOs because they probably have it. When are they going to release that?
Well,
Seriously.
is that one of the reasons why Trump started Space Force?
I think so, but they're okay. Going back to Roswell, okay, and about the Area 51. Is it Area 51? Right. Why do I keep saying Area 54? What's the hell is that? I keep feeling that Area 50. Maybe there is an Area 54. Okay. They supposedly had a craft. Okay. Now, what is that whistling sound? You're driving me crazy. Do they still have it? Is it still there? Why hasn't
Where?
anybody in Area 51? That
Oh.
one from 1947, the crash.
Oh no, they said there never was a crash there.
There never was.
So if you've ever watched the most recent because the man who investigated that initially passed away in the last few years. And so I want to say his grandson.
You're talking about the one that made a phone call to
the one that actually
Coast to coast
transported the material from the crash site to Texas, to Houston or wherever they took it to. He wrote in all of his journals and stuff that and told people later on in life that the material he took to that building, he took the material, dropped it off. He was the one in charge of transporting it. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, wait outside. We'll call you back in. So he left, came back into this office where they had unloaded this part of the crash debris. And he said what they replaced it with something. He said, that's not what I brought here. That's not what I transported. And they replaced it with weather balloon debris and said, this is what you brought here. And he swore it wasn't. So that's all. Nobody knows what happens.
I don't know. I still think.
But why the secrecy? I mean, we know there's.
Well, that was back in 47.
No, well, seriously. I mean, they think that the human population is going to be so freaked out. I mean, come on.
I don't think that's it. I think it's more because we will. It would shed light upon the government involvement with extraterrestrials, and because everyone believes that they've also used extraterrestrial intelligence for advancements in weapons, advancements in experimentation, and it would be crimes against humanity, and that that's something that no one, of course, they wouldn't want to address that.
I don't know. I think don't they have an airplane out right now that they're working on where it's actually cloaked, where you can't see it coming?
Oh, that's shapeshifters.
There's one also that goes past the. Oh my gosh! It can go into almost into orbit, an actual airplane.
Yeah.
Well, there's for about probably 2 miles from my house. There's a woman. She's on Murraysville. She's in Murraysville. Allison Cruz. She videotaped these crafts like on a clear night. She claims, and she does have the videos, and MUFON always said that she was full of it, because I think she just knew more than them, because she had the capability of buying these really cool cameras that you could see close up, high-tech cameras that she bought, and MUFON doesn't have that. And she got these crafts. They look like a helicopter, and then it morphs into something else. And you should see them. I should probably find one on YouTube. And she got them on camera. And she said they go by, there's an old coal mine where they're going. And she thinks that they're going there specifically for the coal. But then I'm thinking, wouldn't a higher intelligent craft, would they use coal? And then she goes, maybe not the coal, but there might be something under the ground. But she said everybody in the neighborhood, their power will go out when these things are shown. So what do you think it is, Trish? Because you're shaking your head. What do you think it is?
Well, I know as a photographer, I can't even name the number of times that I've been taking pictures. I'll be at like a football game or something, and there'll be a plane that flies over or something. I just happen to have my camera out, like fishing or something. And I'll try to take a picture with my camera of, because I've lived around a lot of, military and Air Force bases and stuff. And the modern ones now, I'll try to take a picture of them with my camera, and it locks my camera up. It will not take a picture of it. And the same thing with my cell phone. So there has to be some type of something that scrambles, the communication between modern smartphones, and it's my digital camera. So if I had like a Polaroid, I could probably take it.
She sees them all the time.
Yeah, I can't. So I know for a fact there is some type of cloaking. I
believe it's
technology.
Well, they have suits like that. The military is messing with 10 years ago. Where they could somebody could walk right in front of you. You wouldn't even see them because they have all these tiny little cameras.
Well, doesn't Harry Potter have that the cloak of invisibility?
Well, so, and then also, as far as you mentioned, what are they doing in mines? I've
they go
communication from whoever somewhere else in the universe since I was little, that yes, absolutely, there are resources on this planet that other beings are interested in.
Yeah, and another thing is, not that, maybe a couple miles from that, there's I got called when I was with one of the cases for MUFON that I had to go out my case. I got that there was a recycling metal in Jeanette, Pennsylvania. There was a recycling plant. Well, not plant. Wherever they get the metal. Was that recycling? I don't know.
Scrapyard.
Scrapyard. And the family there said that they saw in the middle of the night, they got like the whole yard lit up, and they looked outside, and they went outside and they got pictures and everything of it. But when they went to go, I guess, I don't know if it was a digital camera, that it did not come out. All they saw was flash.
Yeah.
They were so drawn. They were drained. But they were all drawn to this looking up in the sky like you see in the movies. And she thinks something with the metal, that they needed some kind of metal or some kind of scrap.
I think so. And if you think about it, what if it's true that some of these races of extraterrestrials don't actually have a planet? They just have a giant ship to live on, like you see in the movies and stuff. And if that's the case, then absolutely they would be going to places. Who knows what they use as? I mean, you can make a diamond out of a piece of coal, so which is a very hard substance, So who knows what they use them for?
They were sick, they said, for days from this. They felt drained.
Oh, I'm sure. And that could be a number of things. I mean, that could be from the radiation, from the, what do they call that? The propulsion from the jet. I don't know what it's called, but it puts out a lot of like magnetic energy and stuff as far as when they take off, people get sick from.
When I hear all this stuff, it makes me want to go back and watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, no.
That's old.
Yeah, it is old.
That's old.
I thought that was such a good movie. It was. But
So,
also,
do you think the government will ever release their information on UFOs? Ever? Or just hold on to them?
I think they're just gonna.
I feel like they're getting there slowly. Because you figure way back in the day, everything was hush hush, secret, and even paranormal stuff was like forbidden to talk about. But now look how it's changed over the last, 80 years or whatever. And everything's just more people are into it, more people are excited about it, want to hear about it, want to see about it, want to experience it. So I think it's just slowly coming to.
Do you think it'll be like Independence Day though, where they're like, "Oh, surprise, they're here"?
Well, that happened. Didn't that happened in what 1960s? Around the Washington D.C., they had all these UFO sightings. And you could see them.
And then if that does happen, like, who would you believe? Would you believe the government or any government for that matter? That we're supposed to be against? What if they're the good ones coming to save us? I mean,
they do have it.
Like, who are we supposed to?
What is that? Oh, UFO over Washington. When was that? Do you guys anybody know? Was it during Kennedy?
It was in the 60s. I was like young.
I wasn't even a thought.
I want to know what year that was in the 60s.
Was it like 64?
Wasn't it when Kennedy or Truman? Well, which one was it? Oh,
Truman.
There it is. Here, saucers over DC 60 years ago. Here, let me pull this up before we go home. Before we go home, folks. Where is this? This is. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Saucers.
That's a there's actual pictures, but I'm not sure why they have this up. Let me see if I can find the actual pictures. But they actually have real pictures. These are cartoons. It actually happened, and so that could be. But why didn't no one talk about it though?
Because, like, if you talked about ghosts at that time or paranormal activity, they
Oh, but it
would
was
think
on the
you're a
news.
nutcase.
It was in the major newspapers. It wasn't just like it was like fly by night thing that someone made up. There was actual. It actually had. I want to see the real pictures. That's what I want. It was over 60 years ago. It was 1952.
Ooh.
52?
1952.
I wasn't even born.
You weren't born?
No.
Oh yeah, you're not. I keep thinking you're younger than me.
All right, who's jamming out now?
What's that?
Who's jamming out here?
Not me.
Okay. What jamming
Trish
out?
is. She's got that little, like, kind of face.
I thought you were looking at pictures, not music.
Oh, you heard the music. Okay.
No.
When the
Probably
UFO
commercial.
buzzed in the White House and Air Force blamed the weather. They blamed the weather. 1952 was the year American caught flying saucer fever. So when a rash of strange sightings were reported over the sky, Washington, D.C. that summer, the press and the public demanded answers.
I think back then, I mean, people only had like 3 channels on television, and so they could have taken it off, right? A lot of people might not have even known about it, like on the West Coast.
I mean, look at War of the Worlds that came over the radio back in the 40s or 50s or something, and people were like taking their own lives because they were scared because the alien invasion. It was fake. You know?
Yeah, that's
Not only that, do you all think that it would have a huge effect on religion and people's perspective of religion and just spark chaos like they assume it will?
Very possible, Trish. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're I don't know. I think we're desensitized. I don't think we would. I don't know. This is an actual picture in 1953 where they said they saw it. Is that a UFO that I see? Oh yeah, there is. I'm gonna see if I can bring this forward.
Have you all ever paid attention? I paid attention to this when I took art history in college, and the amount of, like, in historical paintings, I mean really old paintings, where it looks like there's a UFO in the sky.
Oh yeah,
A lot of them.
Yeah, there's tons of them. I think they already did that specifically to show that there were UFO sightings back in there.
And back then they talked about it like it was
during the
normal thing.
Renaissance. Yeah, there was tons of them.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna let go early tonight because our fantastic vampire slaver, Sean Kelly, the sexist vampire slayer.
He's going to turn into a pumpkin here soon.
Yeah, I got my show coming up. I'm
Yeah,
going to have the Ohio Ghost Crew, and they were down there at Buxton with us, and they're a good group. They have all kinds of neat stuff. So
You guys got to start doing some UFO hunting and some ghost hunting. You guys are slacking off in the ghost hunting department.
It's that time of the year.
Well, you should be getting more now because the weather's going to get nice.
Nothing. Nobody wants no investigation.
Why?
Because you know how trends go. It was big back in the early 200s, and now people are used to it, so they don't want to really have an investigation in their place.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think that's. I think the reasoning I'm amongst people like in my community is because especially for people that do a lot of research into these places and stuff, we have to take breaks because it becomes such and there's already so much negativity in the world right now that when you're also going to places with a lot of negative energy, it starts affecting your health and your life. And, you know, like I was saying the other day, there's tons of people I know in the paranormal field that have started having heart attacks and stuff. So for us, like you have to have some good in your life too. You know, you can't become, it's like we are what we eat. You know, if we focus 100% on murders and crimes and death and haunting all the time, that's what you become. So I try to focus on the living when there's a lot of negativity out there.
Wow. We have a guest, and I don't know, I can't find him anywhere, but do you guys know this does this person sound familiar? Jesse Peak?
No.
Mm-mm.
Is he on next week?
Yeah, but I don't have any information on him, but he's in my calendar.
Okay.
Uh-oh. We got to find out who he is. So, Justin,
If you're listening, Jesse
yeah,
Pink.
Dudley, we have to know where your information is. It might be on Messenger. All right, guys. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to
Torture Tuesday.
Torture Tuesday, Chasing Prophecy. I just have to find the ending thing, Majigger. I think I found it. But thanks for tuning in. See you next
night.
week.
See ya.
Okay,
Hey.
guys. Thanks. Trish left.
Hey, we're still live.
Oh my